Welcome to Mind Your Menopause. My name is Miffy Hode from Mental Health Ireland, and this presentation is a collaboration with Dochas for Women in Monaghan. In this presentation, we're going to explore the physical and emotional symptoms of menopause. We're going to have a look at how hormones impact our mental health, especially at this time. We're going to have a look at ways to mind yourself and also mindfulness and relaxation techniques that really support our well-being during this time. One of the most common and notorious, I suppose, symptoms of menopause is the hot flush and night sweats, but this isn't the only symptom. So headaches and migraines are very common, muscle pain, tension in the muscles, sometimes really uncomfortable and sometimes embarrassing symptoms like vaginal itching and dryness. Also painful and heavy periods, so flooding and clots is a very common theme for women going through the perimenopause and the menopause itself before the periods eventually stop. And this can cause all kinds of embarrassment because you leak or you're having to bring a change of clothes with you, or possibly not being able to go anywhere for a day or two while things are bad. Fibroids and polyps are very common too during this time. Fatigue, insomnia, and this is just to name but a few. You could probably think of a few yourself that you can add to this list. And of course, our mental health isn't exempt from the stresses of menopause. And a lot of women who maybe never experienced it before in their life experience things like anxiety and even panic attacks during menopause. And this comes as a bit of a shock sometimes to women who before this didn't experience those sorts of symptoms. Premenstrual tension can get worse. And it can even occur when it never really existed much before, but if you were prone to it before, you might find your symptoms just prior to your period worse than usual. Being tearful, having mood swings, even being irritable and angry, frustrated, and not really knowing why or who with or what you're angry about, but just this really frustrated and angry feeling rising up in you. And some women feel a flatness in their emotional state, sort of a lack of excitement or enthusiasm. And this can be worrying as well for a woman who maybe has always had a lot of energy and enthusiasm and now just feels this flatness or numbness. And of course, all the stuff going on with the body, sometimes weight gain, and sometimes, the things that are happening to us mentally, emotionally, and physically can affect our self-esteem, can affect how we feel about ourselves, our body image, and so on. We might feel like we're, that fear of getting old and all of those things that can occur at this time, but also our intimacy. So our relationships might be impacted by how we feel about ourselves. And some women sort of feel a bit, like, where is the woman I once was? All these symptoms occur both physically and mentally and emotionally, and you can sometimes feel lost and wonder, where am I in all of this? And I didn't used to be like this, and what's wrong with me? And so that can really have a detrimental effect even on our sense of well-being, our sense of self, and our mental health generally. The thing is that there's a reason for all this. There's a reason that we feel this way. There's a reason that this is happening. And the emotional roller coaster that we find ourselves on has an explanation. So as women, estrogen is the predominant hormone for us, and generally we peak in our estrogen levels in our 30s, and as we get older over the decades, that hormone level drops in our system. And so that's why the menopause occurs, and it's the drop in estrogen levels that causes eventually for the hormones to decrease to the point where menstruation stops altogether. Now, the thing about estrogen is it's not just about our reproduction. It also is a hormone that supports other hormones in our body. As we know, we hear a lot about hormonal balance or hormonal imbalance, and that is because all the hormones work together to support one another. And estrogen goes a long way to supporting the hormones that support our mental health. So serotonin and oxytocin especially. Serotonin is the hormone that supports our mood and our sense of well-being. It helps us to regulate our appetite, our sleep. It helps us with memory, helps us with just, it's a feel-good hormone. And without adequate amounts of serotonin, we are much more prone to depression. Oxytocin is a hormone, it's known as the love hormone, and it's about connection, it's about relationships, it's created from hugging. We produce oxytocin when we hug, when we breastfeed our babies, when we hold people we love, when they hold us, and a sense of meaningful connection with another person. And caring for people produces oxytocin. Even caring for people you don't know produces oxytocin. So feeling empathy towards others produces oxytocin. So it's very much a social hormone, and it's to do with our intimate relationships as well. As you can see there, it talks about arousal and trust and so on. It also helps to reduce stress. It helps to soothe us when we're stressed. So dopamine as well is another one of the hormones there. So what estrogen does is it helps to support the production of these hormones in us. So in the absence, or certainly the decline of estrogen in our systems, it throws everything into a bit of an uncertain place, because those hormones that are used to having estrogen supporting them no longer has got estrogen supporting them, and so there is this sort of decline in those hormones as well. And that, coupled with us maybe already feeling out of sorts, and this is because of the reduction in the serotonin and the oxytocin and the dopamine and so on, and the endorphins, that we can often start to feel depression or anxiety and so on. So dopamine is produced through a sense of reward. Now, that reward can be from, as I mentioned, helping other people there, or empathy, or feeling productive, or feeling accomplished, or getting things done, getting feedback and positive affirmation will produce dopamine for you. Oxytocin, as I said, is the love hormone, so any kind of bonding, any kind of connection, any kind of meaningful exchange with other people or animals or plants or the universe itself will create oxytocin. Endorphins are the hormones that are produced when we exercise. Anybody who's ever done any running or swimming or been athletic in any way will be aware of the post-workout buzz, which is endorphins in your system. But you don't have to be a gym bunny to generate endorphins. Any kind of exercise, any kind of activity and physical activity will generate endorphins, and they make you feel good. They're also pain relieving and so on in the body. And then serotonin is your feel-good hormone, is all about your sense of well-being, your sense of yourself, and balancing the usual kind of comings and goings within the body, the eating, the sleeping, and so on and so forth. So with the this going on with the hormones, it stands to reason that you're going to feel fatigue, both physically and mentally, and not feel like you're working on full charge a lot of the time. It stands to reason that you're going to have mood swings. It stands to reason that you're going to feel anxious or depressed or sad or angry. You're not really feeling in control of your emotions necessarily. And also a feeling of confusion, you know, that feeling when you walk into a room and you stand there scratching your head going, why did I walk in here again? And we can laugh at it now, but when it happens, it's really frustrating, and just your inability to maybe focus and concentrate and so on. Those are things that are very frustrating. The good thing to know is, though, that despite all of this, it's not all bad news, because we can do things to support our mental health. We can do things to support these hormones such as the serotonin and the oxytocin, the endorphins and the dopamine and so on in our brains in the absence or the decline of estrogen. There's a lot we can do to support our mental health. So we need to be, I suppose, mindful of minding our mind. And so lots of things help. Get enough sleep. A lot of women don't get enough sleep because of insomnia, and sometimes it's just restless and non-restorative sleep because of the sweats or the heat or whatever. If you have the luxury of a spare bed in your home that you can go and lie in, that maybe you can get into a cool bed and have a better night's sleep. Or if you can take afternoon naps. I'm an advocate for the afternoon nap. I swear by it, and it helps me enormously. But getting enough sleep is really important for our well-being, and it helps to restore us, especially if we're experiencing any kind of stressful period. It's really important to get enough sleep and get some exercise every day. So that can be walking, it can be swimming, cycling, it can be jumping on a trampoline, or it could be doing a bit of gardening, or it could be chair yoga, it could be whatever works for you. It could be dancing, but it needs to be something that you're able to do and something you enjoy. But stretch and move your body every day as much as you are able. And this will help support your well-being, and it will help generate endorphins as well. Good nutrition is so important, and we hear a lot about having a balanced diet, but sometimes we need to supplement that, and B complex can be helpful, vitamin D can be helpful, but ultimately if you can get your nutrition from a well-balanced diet, plenty of fresh fruit and vegetables, a healthy amount of protein and carbohydrate from all good sources is really important. And if you do need to supplement, or you'd like to find out more about supplementation, then do consult with a health practitioner or nutritionist. Your pharmacist is a good place to start, or a health store with somebody who is knowledgeable about this. Stay hydrated, and this is a really important one. Every single function, every single cell in our body requires hydration in order to function properly. And very often we don't drink enough fluids, or we drink the wrong type of fluids, and that is too much coffee or too much tea or soft drinks, when really ideally we should be drinking water more than those other beverages. And one of the things to remember as well is that we very often confuse thirst with hunger. So we have this sort of sense that we want something and we've got the munchies, when in fact what it is that we're thirsty. So just bear that in mind. So if you do find yourself looking in the fridge wondering what you're going to have a glass of water before you decide, and that glass of water might just be enough to restore yourself and rehydrate yourself, and your body might say, yes, that's exactly what I wanted, thank you. Then there are medications and alternative remedies such as HRT and soya isoflavones and red clover and black cohosh, and any amount of remedies that help to support the hormones at this time. Talk to your GP and take professional advice about this, because each of us is unique, and some things will work a treat for one of us while for another one of us it mightn't be the right fit. So do discuss it with a health professional before making your mind up as to what's right for you. This is a time when, for a lot of us, lots of other things are changing in our lives, not just our bodies. Maybe our children are going through teenage years, so they're hormonal too. Maybe our children are at that stage where they're leaving home, and maybe we find ourselves with a bit of an empty nest, or, our sense of purpose, our sense of identity can be impacted at this time. Whatever it is for you, or maybe it's just that the changes in your body and the changes in your emotional state are causing you concern. Talk to someone, whether it's a friend, a family member, or get counseling, but do talk to someone. It's really important to talk. There's lots of complementary therapies, and complementary therapies differ from alternative therapies in the sense that alternative means alternative to the conventional remedies. So, for example, if you're on HRT, then you're not going to take isoflavones because that would be taking two of the same kind of thing, whereas you could be on either HRT or isoflavones and have reflexology as a complementary therapy, so it complements what you're already on. So choose a therapy that works for you. Some people don't like their feet being touched, so reflexology would be out, but if you like it and it relaxes you, then go for it. Acupuncture, massage, there's Reiki, there's all sorts of things that you can have, but they all help to soothe, relax, and ultimately boost our well-being. Explore your hobbies and keep learning. It's really important to have an interest in things, and I'm going to be touching on this a little more in a minute. Stay connected, so meaningful social connection and volunteering, these are really important and boost our well-being. And as we saw in the slides about the hormones, good meaningful social connection and human interaction supports our mental health through raising these hormones in our brain. And relaxation and mindfulness practices also support us. So I'm going to talk to you now about the 5 ways to well-being. In Mental Health Ireland, we use the 5 ways to well-being a lot to promote positive mental health and to boost and maintain our well-being on a daily basis. So you can think of these as your 5 a day. The first is to be active, and we've touched on this already, but physical activity has been proven to be as effective on mild to moderate depression as antidepressants. So 30 minutes minimum of good moderate exercise. Moderate exercise means being able to exercise without being completely breathless. So you could still hold a conversation with somebody if you were exercising with them. So 30 minutes, at least 5 days out of 7, is the minimum requirement for adults to be active. But that's a minimum, remember, so you could definitely do more than that if you're able. Connect is another one of the 5 ways to well-being, and it was mentioned in the previous slide about social connection. So a lot of research has gone into the impact of meaningful social connection, and of course we know how isolation and loneliness impacts our well-being detrimentally. So having connection with other people on a daily basis, it doesn't mean you have to be a social butterfly, but it does mean that you have some kind of a contact with other people and have interesting and friendly conversations with people on a daily basis. Take notice is one of the 5 ways to well-being, and that's about being present in the moment. It's about taking notice of what's around you and what's within you, how you're feeling, how you're doing, what's going on. It might be a case of looking out the window and seeing the wind in the trees or the birds in the sky, listening to children playing down the street, whatever it is for you. But it helps us to stop thinking about the past and projecting into the future and just taking notice of the here and now. Keep learning is in here in the 5 ways to well-being, and I talked about hobbies earlier on and said I would revisit it, and this is where, because when we keep learning, we keep our optimism alive, we keep our enthusiasm and hope alive in ourselves. And it could be a simple thing as learning a new crochet stitch, for example, a new recipe, learning about your favorite plants and flowers, doing your family tree, or it could be academic learning, or it could be taking an online course, or listening to TED Talks, or reading up on something that you're interested in. Whatever it is, keeping learning helps to support our well-being. And I always think that whatever fosters optimism and hope in us helps to keep away the darkness. The last of the 5 ways is to give, and that's about volunteering, supporting other people. I mentioned earlier how when we're helping other people or empathizing with other people, it boosts our well-being because it helps to generate oxytocin, which is one of the feel-good hormones. And by giving freely of our time, our expertise, our good nature, without expectation of anything in return, this boosts our well-being. The beauty of it is that of course there is a return. We always feel better for being kind or generous to other people. But we have to also remember to be kind and generous to ourselves, so we give to ourselves as well, and that is important for our well-being too. So the practices of relaxation and mindfulness are there to support our well-being, and they are very simple practices, and I'm going to go through some of them here that you hopefully will be able to bring with you and use going forward. Breath awareness is a beautiful way of harnessing your breath to stay more present in the moment, to soothe and relax you. And taking one breath at a time can really help to slow down your autonomic nervous system, to remind your body to relax instead of stress. And by taking 3 deep and full breaths every now and again throughout the day, you are doing yourself a beautiful favor. You are treating your body to some well-earned relaxation. So taking a full breath and holding for a second before releasing. And release your breath completely. So breathe out fully before breathing in again as you do this breath awareness technique. So taking a deep and full breath, pausing at the top of the breath, and breathing out completely, and doing that 3 times before carrying on about your business. And any time during the day that you find yourself waiting for something, you could be on hold on the phone, you could be waiting for the internet to load, you could be waiting for the washing machine door to open, or stuck at traffic lights, or in a queue, anything where you're waiting for the kettle to boil, the toast to pop. Take 3 deep and full breaths, give yourself a well-earned break, and this will help you to get more in touch with your body, more in touch with your breath, and more in touch with the sensations of relaxation as opposed to stress. Another practice is to engage the senses. So just taking a moment to see what you can see, what you can hear, taste, smell, what you can feel through your sense of touch, and what you can sense through your intuition. These are all important senses which we experience everything in life through them and then interpret them accordingly. The sense of taste and smell can be useful when we're practicing mindful eating, for example. And it's a nice practice to stop and pause and listen to what are the sounds around you. Without any judgment, without any expectation of anything, you're just listening or watching or tasting or smelling or whatever it happens to be. Slow down your movement. A lot of us travel through this world at breakneck speed. We're in such a hurry to get things done. We're in such a hurry to get places and to do this and to do that. And sometimes if we just slow our movements down deliberately, this helps to slow our thinking down, helps to soothe our body and remind ourselves that there really isn't as much of a hurry as we'd like to think there is. When we slow down the body, the mind gets a chance to come into land as well. So by doing things like deliberately walking up the stairs slowly where normally you'd run or trot up the stairs, or if you're driving, drive 5 miles an hour slower than you would normally drive. Or if you're washing the dishes or folding clothes, just deliberately slow down your body movements and just see how that feels. Take a moment to smell the roses is all about savoring moments. Each moment we experience is a part of our life, and very often we miss lots of moments because our mind is elsewhere or we're just so busy trying to get to the next thing. But savoring is really important for our well-being, and there's lots of research into savoring that shows that when we stop and enjoy and notice things and really take stock of the moment, it really boosts our well-being and our happiness. We're more content, more calm, and more relaxed when we do this practice. A gratitude practice is also a very powerful way to reframe our thinking. So by stopping and thinking of 3 good things in your life, you are really doing yourself a massive service. In all the research into gratitude practice, the interesting things are these. One is it actually can rewire your brain physically. So you may have heard of neuroplasticity, that the brain can change and grow and be made to heal and improve and so on through various exercises and practices. Gratitude practices changes the brain for the better. It creates new and strong neural pathways through your brain, makes your brain fire in a healthy way. But the other thing about gratitude practice that was discovered in research is it doesn't matter what you're grateful for. What creates change in your brain and what actually boosts your sense of well-being and your feel-good hormones is the act of being grateful, the act of seeking out something to be grateful for. So whether it is to sit down and write a gratitude journal, or just to stop and think about 3 good things that you're grateful for right now, this is rewiring your brain for more contentment, more ease, more peace, and more compassion in your life. Finally, the hand on heart practice is a beautiful practice whereby you place your predominant hand on your heart, on your chest, and your other hand on your belly. So if you're right-handed, put your right hand on your chest, and if you're left-handed, put your left hand on your chest. This practice is especially good for soothing anxiety and panic, or feelings of anger and frustration. It slows down your autonomic nervous system. It has the effect of giving yourself a hug, so oxytocin is produced when you practice hand on heart. The beauty of the hand on heart practice is that all these other practices that I've just described to you can be done while you have your hand on your heart. So while you are doing your hand on heart practice, you can take your 3 deep and full breaths, and then you can spend a moment or 2 engaging your senses. And you can slow down or stop altogether while you practice your hand on heart, savoring this moment that you're giving yourself and bringing to mind the 3 good things in your life that you're grateful for and appreciate at this time. So the hand on heart practice is something I encourage you to do. I encourage you to bring it into your life and make it as important as brushing your teeth, as eating your breakfast, that you make some time and prioritize some time in your day and in your life to practice these relaxation and mindfulness techniques that are proven to support and boost your well-being. So before we go, I'd like you to just take a moment now to think about what you've just heard, the information, the practices and skills that I've described, and just reflect on what resonated with you, what's useful, what will you go forward and find out more about, what practices will you use, and what's useful from today's session for you personally. So I'd just like to take this moment to thank you for your time, for listening, and also to thank Ursula and Lynn in Dochas for Women for inviting me to take part in this collaboration of bringing Mind Your Mental Health and Mind Your Menopause to you here in Cavan and Monaghan. Thank you very much.